Everyone is talking about Industry 4.0, but what does it really mean? Hello and welcome back to the LIGNA-Journal, coming live here from Ligna. Today's topic is woodworking on the path to Industry 4.0, and I'd like to welcome Dr. Georg Ullmann from the Institut für Integrierte Produktion in Hanover, Dr. Josef Papenfort from Beckhoff Automation, and Dr. Stefan Möhringer from Simon Möhringer Anlagenbau. Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to a lively discussion. People often say that Industry 4.0 is the fourth industrial revolution, but what does this term really mean? And I'd like to put this question to you, Mr. Papenfort. What does Industry 4.0 mean for you? Well, Industry 4.0 is of course a very loaded term. It means networking and batch size 1 production. But for us it is also about an integrated engineering process for complex procedures. And last but not least, production employees must not be neglected. Mr. Möhringer, Industry 4.0 is an important topic here at Ligna. Is it an important topic for you too? It's an important topic for us as well. We're involved in solid wood processing. Batch size 1 has always been there in solid wood processing. Every roof truss is individual, and so we need to be able to trace parts, so that makes it a really hot topic. Mr. Ullmann, you work in various sectors. What does Industry 4.0 mean for you? For us, Industry 4.0 is the technical solution for a phenomenon that we are seeing called individualization. Individualization in every respect, in every process step, from production to service. So it is a large topic that is generating research funding provided by the government. We're involved in that and are very pleased to be so. So we heard a few key terms here: batch size 1, individualization. Can you perhaps summarize what Industry 4.0 means to you in a maximum of 2 sentences? Industry 4.0, as I already said, is the technical solution for implementing individualization. Individualization is, for example, the moment that a customer can configure their own product on a website. That might be the first step. We can see this in mass production as well. For instance, Coca-Cola recently had an ad campaign where people could have a name of their choice printed on the bottle. Or Nutella, for example, where you could get a personalized jar. Those are the steps that I meant with individualization. And that's precisely what Industry 4.0 is. Implementing these things in mass production. That means reorganizing production to achieve exactly this individualization, and that requires new technologies, new solutions. That is Industry 4.0. On the one hand, cost reduction and individualization on the other. So for you, Industry 4.0 is about achieving individualization at mass production costs. So far we've just spoken about Industry 4.0 in general, but let's now take a closer look at the wood processing industry. We ask kitchen and furniture manufacturers what they have to say about Industry 4.0. Customers are becoming more and more individual and want customized furniture, but it mustn't cost more than serial furniture. As we see it, that is only possible with batch size 1 production. We produce everything just in time, 100%. Every cupboard we make, the walls, the floors, the shelves, the back walls, they are even produced just in time, because with these levels of variance there is no other way. We had very good experiences of introducing Industry 4.0 when we started a project with robot-assisted automated production about 10 years ago. It certainly led to a few grey hairs, as you can clearly see. But it was the right step, and we would do exactly the same thing today, because there is no other way in Germany. So, we've heard there is no way around it. Mr. Möhringer, what is the current status of Industry 4.0 in wood processing? I'd like to go into a bit more detail. For me, Industry 4.0 is more something we are aiming towards, and there are still a lot more steps to go. And if we take the architect definition as an example, then we're actually talking about autonomous production. So not just batch size 1, it actually produces itself, starts the production process and more or less oversees the whole process. And as I see it, that is of course a very ambitious goal, and we still have a long way to go. But I think we're already on a very good path in many other areas. So the goal is to have a machine that controls production itself. What's the situation in the wood processing industry? How far are we there? We've already implemented batch size 1 in many areas of the wood processing industry, but the question is whether everything is still controlled centrally by a very highly automated system, or can the components already react autonomously? For instance, can they find alternative production paths in the event of problems? For me, that is key to Industry 4.0. Mr. Papenfort, what's your appraisal? Yes, of course. Individualized production has been around for a long time, especially in the wood industry, in the kitchen industry, but also in other furniture industries. And we at Beckhoff, of course, supply the technology, PC-based control technology, which already entails networking functions. That, of course, also includes the corresponding software products, like for part tracking. I don't think that every chipboard that later becomes part of a kitchen will ever be fitted with an RFID chip, but of course we do need to know where every chipboard is in the production process, and so we need software. That requires computer architecture and databases and so on. Mr. Ullmann, from an outsider's perspective, do you think the wood industry is well positioned? Well, I can't really give an assessment because I don't know the industry well enough. As a kind of test, I did try to configure a piece of office furniture myself with a manufacturer, but it didn't work out. Maybe I didn't do enough research, and so I didn't find it. I basically just looked for an equivalent to the car industry, where you can individually configure your car, so practically order it yourself as the end customer. I didn't manage that in this sector. Maybe that's to do with the sales structures there that are maybe a bit different to in the automotive industry. And maybe I can just add that when I say individualization, I mean more than just configuration. For me, individualization, we already talked about it, can also mean that the end customer for a kitchen uploads a picture for the manufacturer to have it printed on the kitchen cupboard doors. These technologies are available in principle, and I think that is the direction it can go in, that the end customer demands exactly this kind of individualization, truly personal individualization. Mr. Papenfort, there have already been lots of ideas. Do you think some of them have been implemented, or what stage is the wood industry at? Well, the wood industry is of course very much oriented towards individualization. You can see that with laminate floor manufacturers, for example. And I've seen this while walking around the trade fair as well. Individualization is a trend in that sector. Whether it is also going to become established in the kitchen industry, well, that's a question for kitchen manufacturers, but I think it will. So, it's coming. Another key topic at LIGNA is network production in the furniture industry, a precursor to Industry 4.0. We took a look around LIGNA to see what we could find out about Industry 4.0.
It is clear to see at LIGNA 2015, the fourth industrial revolution is becoming increasingly important in the future industry as well. Process optimization, automation and individualization are the buzzwords at the leading global trade fair for the woodworking industry.
Industry 4.0 is already very advanced in the furniture industry. I think it's a trailblazing industry because we've already been working with batch size 1 for a very long time. Individuality is by no means new, and that's why many goals of Industry 4.0 are already very advanced in the furniture industry.
Wood processing goes smart. The industry's focus is on increased production efficiency, with many exhibitors presenting groundbreaking solutions for various applications. Industry 4.0, a great opportunity for further development in the furniture industry.
I think the prospect of employees being able to concentrate on their core skills in furniture factories is very promising, that the furniture components are produced on time and in the right quality. But the employees don't have to concern themselves with the processes. The tools come with the necessary woodworking skills, and that means that the tool manufacturer's knowledge is automatically integrated in the processes. That increases process stability and reduces commissioning times.
The system is not replacing the competence of the customer, it's helping the customer. Exactly in the same way as a calculator does when you have to do difficult calculations. You reduce time and error.
Not only complete production lines are presented live at LIGNA, it is also clear to see that highly specialized processing of wood and timber products based on Industry 4.0 offers considerable international competitive advantages.
So Industry 4.0 is very much in the air at LIGNA. But let's now move from the woodworking industry to the automotive industry, which has always been something of a trailblazer in innovations. Industry 4.0 is particularly advanced there. Can you confirm that, Mr. Papenfort? At Beckhoff you come into contact with lots of different sectors. Yes, we're involved with lots of different sectors, but we've been working with the wood industry the longest. That's where we have most customers. Of course, the automotive industry is more advanced there with the variety of configuration options. Industry 4.0 is obviously further there too. There are a number of reasons for that. Various locations are networked, various production systems are networked, and various suppliers as well, which is not as pronounced in the wood industry. Mr. Ullmann, what do you think? You're also involved with various sectors. The automotive industry is of course very, very advanced in production, in involving suppliers and customers, in lots of different process steps, but in service as well. When you go to the mechanic, your individual driving data is read directly from your car and problems are then identified. That is indeed very, very advanced, and I think that lots of people will orientate themselves towards the automotive industry. Mr. Papenfort, what do you think? How far is the woodworking industry if you make a direct comparison? You already mentioned it briefly before. I think quite similar where production advancements are concerned. We have very individualized, very automated production. I almost think there are less employees in some kitchen factories than in the automotive industry, even though lots is still done by hand. It's clear to see that robots are being used in both sectors. They perform the monotonous or strenuous jobs, so I think it's pretty much neck and neck. I think that's an important point, employees in production. IPH was founded under the name SIM-Fabrik, Computer Integrated Manufacturing, basically a precursor to Industry 4.0 if you like, but back then we made the mistake of saying that the unmanned factory was coming. I don't think we can afford to make that mistake today, because it's not true, it's not our goal. On the contrary, we need to involve humans, and of course that presents us with challenges. For example, we sadly don't have built-in antennae to read RFID chips. That's exactly what's going on in research, developing new human-machine interfaces to address exactly that topic and involve humans in this technologically highly complex environment. You just mentioned briefly that there are a number of challenges, and one challenge is security if a factory is running completely autonomously. What do you think, Mr. Ullmann? Personally, I think that companies are not well enough prepared. I would argue that the technologies are actually available, but companies are not well enough prepared. And as that is the case, we're faced with a lot of anxiety from these companies, for instance with regard to data exchange or the disclosure of measuring data and condition monitoring data. Remote service access, etc. Particularly medium-sized businesses are reluctant there because they're concerned that their know-how and data will be leaked because there is a lack of security. Mr. Möhringer, what do you think? You have quite a lot of contact with companies. Is security a topic that lots of companies are concerned about? Yes, absolutely. I think it's still a big challenge, because the smarter a component is, the more know-how is somehow stored in it. And product piracy is another important point. Data can get into the wrong hands, and I think that it is very important that if companies are going to open up, we guarantee that they provide this data. Maybe just to add to that, in addition to simple security aspects, there are also legal aspects. There are lots of unanswered questions regarding who data belongs to, who is allowed to use it. We still have no answers here. At IPH, we work together with the Hanover-based solicitors Herford and Partner to deal with precisely these questions. We see it as a very important aspect that also has to do with security. So there is definitely some work to be done. You first have to invest, even if it will only pay out much later. Money has to be invested. And now, to be somewhat blunt, is it really necessary for every cupboard wall to be smart, for every cupboard wall to communicate with the machine? And that question goes to you, Mr. Möhringer. Of course, it's not necessary for every cupboard wall to be able to do that, but there are very, very good examples of where it is. For instance, in solid wood processing, we deal with automated picking systems. So a component is stored somewhere to later be loaded onto the right truck and delivered to the right site at the right time. So it's important there that the entire chain knows where the component is and that it carries the information that might be needed. That's very important in that situation. Mr. Papenfort, what do you think? Yes, Nobilia is a good example. They're one of the biggest kitchen manufacturers, one of our neighbours. The chipboard itself does not have an RFID tag, but the finished cupboard does, of course, because it's loaded onto the truck and traced until it has been delivered to the customer. So I think it's important there. And IT security will become more crucial when we think about cloud computing, which is definitely on its way. Maybe not for medium-sized businesses, but for large companies. There will surely be a cloud system connection. Data will be exchanged via cloud, so data security is obviously key there. But not only security in how the data gets into the cloud, but also how it is stored and who has access. Mr. Ullmann, is it necessary for every cupboard door to be smart? I don't think it's necessary either. If I were a furniture manufacturer or wood processor, I would also ask myself where my customers expect individualization from me, and that's exactly where I would make changes. That might mean that components have to be smart, but not necessarily. For example, we developed a sensor node for the maritime industry, an autonomous sensor node that can harvest energy from the surroundings of the ship's gearbox and takes data measurements there that are then sent to a computer. That allows better service interval planning. It tells us when the ship needs to go for maintenance work. It can even plan it for when it's docked anyway. That's the benefit that is generated for the gearbox manufacturer's customer, the ship owner. That can also be Industry 4.0. At the end of the day, it's individualization. It's not always just about having smart components in production processes. So Industry 4.0 is a big topic. Smart components are not an absolute must. There are lots of other applications, but we need to make a step in that direction nevertheless. Now, just to put this out there as we draw to a close, please complete this sentence. Industry 4.0 in the wood processing industry will, and I'll start with you, will enrich the wood processing industry and further strengthen its competitiveness. Yes, I would say almost the same. It will advance the industry. I mean, we are already very advanced with Industry 4.0, with networking and individualization in the wood processing industry. Of course, we have to keep pushing forward. There are a number of research projects, particularly in Ostwestfalen-Lippe, the ITS-OWL, with research projects where we want to push this topic with wood processing machinery manufacturers. Mr. Ullmann, Industry 4.0 in the wood processing industry will surely have a significant influence in coming years. As I see it, we needn't be scared about it. We will be confronted with it. It will change us. If you're open to it and stay curious, if you're willing to change, then we only stand to benefit from it. And we already talked about those benefits. So we've definitely reached some sort of consensus. Thank you very much for taking part in the discussion, and thank you for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day.